So ladies and gentlemen, our next very riveting segment is an initiative by MMA Voice and Audio Council, a part of the AMMP community to accelerate modern marketing practices, and is in partnership with IVM Podcasts. This is yet another section from the Walks podcast series, which is going to be recorded live. And ladies and gentlemen, quickly tell me, are you ready for some cutting chat? No, not done. Are you ready for some cutting chat with Sukhleen and Cyrus? Ladies and gentlemen, both flamboyant personalities are here to share more about their personal journeys and also their experience of navigating from the brick and mortar to the digital side of the business. Needless to say, there's going to be a lot of learning, but it is going to be a ride of laughter. Put your hands together and join me in welcoming Miss Sukhleen Aneja, MMA India Board Member, Chief Executive Officer, The Good Glam Group, and I know it's a cliche term, but this man absolutely needs no introduction at all. An immensely talented artist, multi-talented theatre personality, an author, a satirist, and podcaster, Cyrus Brocha.
Come, sit. I think it's a tribute to all that you've done, and very quickly, let me just line up, although she's mentioned it. You are the MMA India Board Member, paid member, Chief Executive Officer of the Good Glam Group.
I'm saying it's a roast.
Which she started, the Good Glam Group, GGG, which you've started. This is the main story here, folks, and of course, this is going to sound like Lalu Prasad Yadav and Bill Gates discussing coding, because my knowledge of the business obviously is not that good. But what's very important, and I think the main point here for us is that you started the startup, you started everything, which includes, above all, a child being, hello, uncle, what the hell are you doing? Okay. A big hand for our third guest. Rajesh. Kya haal hai, Rajesh? All good? Thank you. We'll discuss his startup in about 5 minutes. But the cutting chai apparently is part of the whole thing. So coming back to in the pandemic, she deserves a big hand for this. Started a business which is super successful in a very short span of time. Also had a child. Unbelievable. While most of us were just sitting at home looking at our relatives' faces and wondering when the mustache on our spouses, male and female, would stop growing. She had a much better life, but I want to get right into that. So, because most people were so negative during the pandemic, me included. They stopped all our entertainment in the sense that we couldn't do live events where we can talk to people. And don't judge by this audience, but some audiences would clap and laugh, and so, we were used to that. And then suddenly we were on Zoom and, talking to people who would just switch off or get their grandmother to sit in front of the thing or whatever. So for us, it's been a nightmare, actually, the first 6 months to 1 year. But let's get through the initial thing. How did it all happen? Was it just like karma that it all came together?
I think post the pandemic, everybody's probably experienced some or the other big life change. I was lucky that I had my twin daughters. So I'm going to reply back to all the introductions with slight modification. So I didn't have a child, I had children. So I had twins.
Kabhi research karna padega. I'm so sorry. Sometimes those 3 girls, Meghna and gang, sitting there were distracting me and mildly flirting with me. I blame them for everything. Sukhleen, women are bringing down the country. Look what's happening. No one's saying anything there. Yeah. Anyway, sorry to interrupt. Go on.
No worries. And I think post-pandemic, what I would really say is that it's really been about the power of and. So post-maternity, I was really glad to have started a journey in a company that was now becoming a unicorn as a professional CEO. So again, to correct itself, it was started by a very dynamic founder, Darpan. And the way the company is growing, the very fact that we today have such amazing professionals who are building the organization, and having worked in very large companies all my life, this itself is another baby that you're building together. And that for sure has been one hell of an incredible ride. It's very early days, but coming from a brick and mortar world to a company that's digital first, I think is a huge departure, which I'm certainly enjoying. And I can already see he's waiting to take his next.
No, I just got distracted when you said it started by somebody else. So is there equity in the company or not? Because that's the question they're asking. And if so, how much? And how much is it valued at? And notional value for 23 as well, post-pandemic.
We are going to gift him an Economic Times.
Okay,
fair enough. Show.
Okay, let's get back to I like the human factor more than anything else. I think most people always understand that, no doubt success is important and all that, but the fact that all these things happen, the birth of children during a horrible time where you can't leave the building, etc., where everybody's in your face, as in family members, and you can't get away from anything like you normally could, say on a weekend or whatever. All that's happening. But you guys started this business, it started doing well. I'm just thinking, didn't you ever think that you're going to be overwhelmed with all this about to happen and with the world shutting down on one side?
No, but think about it this way, right? Like, look at all of us. All of us have transformed in a way that we're never going to go back to being same again. You know, so in that context, many of us, I mean, look at your own industry, Cyrus. For a person who is in the industry of thriving on an audience's energy, today you are creating the same impact through Zoom, you know, where you don't even have the audience energy to feed off. So I'm saying, even if I was to reverse the table and actually ask you, putting you in a spotlight, the industry is completely transformed, even for a performing artist like you. How do you feel?
It's a tragedy for us because A, they pay us less and want us to work more, which is ridiculous. Being a comedian, the whole idea is that you've escaped work. You know, it's the last thing a person does when they can't get regular jobs, so it makes no sense to me. So for us, honestly, it doesn't work after a point. No, I'm just kidding. Of course it does, and gave birth to so many more experiences. Bloody clients have gone berserk, realizing they can spend so little money on so-called talent, not transport anybody. You can have dealer conferences from, you know, the old days, the dealers used to get so excited. We're going to Bangkok, all these naughty boys, all, you know, dirty talking away in the plane and all that, ready to get drunk for 3 days. Now you're stuck in Kanpur for the weekend with your own wife and mother-in-law or mother, and that's it. And you're supposed to enjoy 1 hour of Cyruss brochure. So they're horrible, the experiences for everybody. But as you said, the world has changed, so we just have to find a balance and manage. But let's get back to the online situation. So that played into your hands, obviously. Yeah.
I think in that context, exactly, I think the operative word for, I think, today's conversation for me is really the power of and. Today we are sitting where, again, we are back to being in the open world. We are back to having a balance between pace and proximity, you know. But if I look at the way all of us have actually embraced change, it's not like we're not going to go out and shop, but you also want the convenience of shopping from home. So in that context, today, consumer tech industries have a future which probably really got accelerated thanks to COVID. So in that regard, I was also very keen to come and ride on a path which accelerates that learning curve, not just for us, but even for who we create for. We are fundamentally creating products for our shoppers, and we all shop differently today. So it's quite a change.
But Sukhleen, you told me not to ask this question 5 times outside when we was having our long private chat of 3 minutes. By the way, we have our first casualty. That gentleman in the economy class seat has just walked off. I think you said online shopping, he has to buy his wife a sari, he just walked off because the deals are on for the weekend. Fair enough. But you explicitly said, but everybody asks this question, whether you're in the business or not, of online that is, are we going to revert to offline buying, or does that come back to play? Or like what, you know, when we had what, television first, we had radio first, then we had television, then we had video, you know, and now we have the internet, features before that. Everything sort of survived in the media in that sense. Nothing is really gone. They find another way to survive, but they sort of survive. So what happens? Because we suddenly saw online becoming huge, and online has overtaken everything else, and is there such a thing as offline, whatever. But as the years progress or the world changes again, what do you think?
I think, Cyrus, in my view, the buzzword has become omni-channel. I think everybody is looking at transformative experiences. Even if you're sitting at home, you don't mind video shopping online to make a choice. Even if you're purchasing a car today, you don't mind actually doing a full demo inside your house. You might still go and transact outside. So there is clearly a huge need for convenience, which has come in because the time spent in home has dramatically increased. People want the convenience of being able to have things fast. So quick commerce or the idea of convenience is definitely entrenched. But at the same time, there is also a certain degree of exuberance when it comes to the post-pandemic world. People are really happy coming out. So if you even see within the job space, earlier people said, wow, we're working remote. Then people got sick of sitting at home. And then they said, shit, I want to come back to office. And then when they come for 5 days and they say, no, I want to go back home. So there is still that conundrum where everyone is fundamentally asking for hybrid solutions, right? So
I just thought of something, because we have IVM guys, employees here, about 40 of the people here are from IVM. We don't have space in the office in cars, so we keep them here. No, I was just thinking, because we were discussing this actually, I'm sure everybody will agree, at least the entrepreneurs and the CEOs and CFOs, is that it's such a great excuse now. Because you got to just say you're not feeling well, and everybody's before they'll be, come on, Baba, aja na, just try or whatever. Now the first thing is, no, when you recover, it's gone the other way around. So it's a great bahana, so to speak, where everybody just throws it down your throat.
Yeah, net, who cares as long as results happen, right? Whether you sit on your bed wearing your chuds or you're actually in office all decked up, as long as you're delivering, I think for sure people are starting to trust each other more. Right? Because at the end of the day, the only thing that matters is results.
And CTC, if you're in your chaddi at home, look at what you're saving me as the entrepreneur. I think it's a great idea. The Indian mind should be going berserk about this. No one should go to an office again.
No, but have you seen the way entire dressing has changed, right? The very fact people sat at home, t-shirt sales must have skyrocketed, right? Because you never saw people wearing formals. So, for sure.
Not only that, if you notice the gentlemen in this room, and please, ladies, if you're around any gentlemen here in the room, all of them have fancy socks. We discovered that. My three great friends there, Pinky, Meghna, Nidhi, we've just discovered that everyone, guys, don't look away. Pull up your pants, and I mean this politely. Pull up your pants 3 or 4 inches and let them see your socks. The people have gone a little berserk with things like socks and t-shirts.
Shirts and shorts.
Shirts and shorts.
Yeah.
Kachas, what we used to call in my generation, which is now called boxers. Give it like a classy swing to it as well. Let's talk about the creatives for a second. So, because you're in the business of communicating at the end of the day, whether it's online, offline, or in between. So, is there a difference now? The pandemic communication and now when you go back and talk to customers directly?
No, not a difference, but I think during the pandemic times itself, I was amazed at how resilient the world of communication also is, right? We were so open to making videos on a mobile, even if you were shooting with a celebrity. They were happy shooting it on a mobile, sending it to you, and you were also okay airing the same piece of communication, even on TV.
And sometimes the quality was better than the 45 lakh budgets for one audio. IVM, this is not you guys, I'm just... but there are some ridiculous budgets out there, yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, but for sure, ingenuity was the word. But now as we go back, I think for sure that you're consuming so much more content online. So there is for sure, your TV has not gone away, but you are consuming a lot more content of your choice. So to that extent, a lot of exuberance is also back because people are celebrating the idea of being back. And the best example is the airports, guys. When you actually step out, you feel like the whole country seems to be traveling out for summer vacations because there's so much pent-up anxiety with respect to even travel. So I think it's going to take a bit of time till we normalize to a curve that is real.
But does go the other way, that online did so well. For example, if you look at the OTTs, they did really well in 2020, second half, 21, huge, and now have tapered off a little bit. And everybody's saying that, but I don't see people in the cinema either. It's not like, except for Kannada films for some reason. Hindi and English films, nobody watches. So is there like a reverse effect now?
Not a reverse effect, but there is definitely a degree of balance because when the pandemic times were on, everyone was holed up at home. So your TV ratings saw a big jump. You saw digital consumption go up in a big way because people were fundamentally holed up. But now that people are going to spend time out of home, so a large part of that time, which probably went into commute, which was translating into consumption of content, is getting balanced out in time spent out of home. So there is for sure a reversal of patterns, but it's not going to go back to the pre-pandemic times because some changes are irreversible.
So basically, we don't know what the real answer is to all these things. We're all just swimming together here and trying to figure it out. Fair enough. But so you won't even say that was a golden period and then now it'll average out a little bit in terms of your own performance with the startup? Or
irrespective of how you do financially, nobody will have the heart to call the pandemic the golden time.
I know.
So I think it just
sounds
so wrong.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah. So, I would say for sure, I think online industry has benefited with respect to what you would have expected. An acceleration over 5 years has probably happened over 12 to 15 months. So adoption went up in a big way. But yes, it does start to now get to a space where you have to do genuine demand creation. Whether it's online or offline, you have to incentivize consumers to discover your brands, both in online and offline. Because it's impossible to be only able
But you can't communicate to everybody in the same way. As in online and offline?
I think the heart of marketing doesn't change, which is about communicating benefits, building relevance, building aspiration. But you do have to customize your message for the medium, without a doubt. I mean, if on a mobile phone where people have a much lower attention span, you tried giving them a cinema spiel, they would not have the patience for it.
But our podcast business, when we started in 2020, we had 6 listeners. Now we have about 10. It's really blossomed in the last year and a half. And the matter, people just realize that these kind of things can exist while they work. It's like passive listening, which is a forgotten art. It's like I don't know, in the last 10 years, people are too actively doing the bhangra when they listen to music. Now you can actually just have the music in the background, which is more like a zamana from the 80s or whatever. So I think podcast serves that purpose. Sometimes you're paying attention, sometimes you're not really paying attention, but it's sort of there. So it's like what radio perhaps was in the beginning. So I don't want to talk about our thing too much, but yeah, that's there. But there's a very relevant question from Meghna there on the, who's on the health industry. They're feeling very neglected and they're upset and they want to be represented. They are the minority, so to speak, of this entire digital platform and they're not happy and they will have a voice at some point. But her question is it true that you've chosen Arnab Goswami to be your brand ambassador and why? Why are they laughing? That's a perfectly elegant choice. He's a good-looking man.
Cyrus, the company is called Good Glam. The leading brand is My Glam. So which part of that proposition do you think he's going to fit in?
I mean, I don't know, we want him for shirts. The nation needs to know the audacity. How dare you? Unfortunately, people don't appreciate him for what he is.
But if the nation needs to know the secrets to look glamorous, for sure there's an answer. And we don't need an Arnab to discover that.
All right, we'll leave him out of this discussion for now because he's not paying us. He shouldn't get this kind of publicity. But what we can do quickly before we go into Q&A is talk about the personal side of things. I know this is a cliche question people ask, but anyone who's been successful, properly successful as you have been, I know you don't want to be toot your own horn and all that, but you have been. So the whole question here is, how did you cope with the pandemic when it all started, both personally, with the family? You know, I don't know about you guys, but as a man, I'm not really a man, I'm on the divide, but as almost a man, I had real respect for my, I hate to be cliche and stereotype, about my mom and my wife and other ladies of the world who run houses, because I never took it seriously until the very fact, day 2, day 3, when I discovered things like, you know, if you open the toilet under the wash basin, there was a cupboard. I didn't even know there was a cupboard. Under that cupboard, there were things inside, colorful liquids, and you use that to clean the toilet. I didn't know there was an actual cleaning toilet process. You know, I mean, we Indian men, we have such lovely lives. So, I mean, there were so many little things that we were exposed to, and I'm thinking you're doing that, and you're giving birth to a company and babies, which is no mean feat, whatever. Although lots of people were practicing to give birth to babies because there's nothing else to do, but let's not get into that. Yeah.
But I would say, for sure, you know, one of the things that I'm sure all of us who've lived through pandemics, and I don't think it's only about women, it's about people at large, both, it's a gender agnostic comment. I think the lines between the work life and personal life really blurred. Because you did have families adjusting depending on their kids, their schedule, especially with kids not going to school. For families that had children, that was extremely hard. Like you could be on calls and you could see how challenging it was for parents who were also babysitting their children. So personally for me, I was at a time really experiencing collectively with my teams their full life. You know, which you often at work don't even realize.
Sometimes it's too much as well.
It is, but you know, you also empathize because you realize how difficult it really gets sometimes when you're holed up in the house the whole day and you're working and suddenly the lines completely blur out. So you eventually realize the importance of actually switching on that computer and saying a hi and having a conversation. Because one of the biggest changes that I personally realized for myself was that, you know, the joy of working, more than work, is also the joy of those coffee conversations. And suddenly in the Zoom era, everything became extremely transactional. Because if the meeting was 9, people started at 9:01.
No, not really. Sukhleen, we had our own culture that developed, right? People like, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Am I on? Am I audible? Am I audible? I mean,
and please go on mute.
Yeah, please don't mute, or please unmute, or we can hear you. Oh my God, what are you saying? That was coffee table talk, I thought, the initial foreplay.
You know, there were days we actually did virtual beer sessions and they felt so bizarre to do conferences virtually. But in a way, I'm really thankful to God that life is starting to normalize because...
Now that you mentioned the beer session, I don't know if you guys have done this, but I thought the lowest of the low for a party animal who's had some really good parties in his life is giving the cheers to the camera. Everybody putting the glass towards the camera. Like, how bad is our life and social life? Like,
at least that was also good enough, right? It's still better than dying.
Yeah,
so
fair enough.
Everything is relative in life.
Yeah. All right. Okay, but now that you've done that, don't you find this to be a little boring? Going back to work, and it's also easy for you now. I mean, you know, you're not running the house, running the kids, running everything simultaneously.
No, the beauty is, Cyrus, now nobody expects you to be back, right? Even with your own teams, you're very comfortable with the idea of running a business where your teams are practically in Calcutta, Bangalore, Bombay. It's really my first time of working and leading a team where people are across the country. You know, in the past, I mean, that's definitely not a reality I'm used to, you know, and I was used to. But the liberating thing is there's something for us to learn as well, right? Because once you get used to it, you realize how liberating it is because you have access to probably the best talent in the country because you're giving them the freedom to be in their locations.
Now let me speak for the other side. You're the boss, you're the entrepreneur, you're the leader. What about us, the ones who work under you? I think for us it's also terrible because we can't run away. Sunday evening, 7:30, we can still talk. But Sunday night, 9:45, we can still chat. If you can't make it after the wedding, please log on. I mean, it's just ridiculous. So there's no escape. And especially with India, where we don't have the time discipline, like say Germany or Japan, where they shut shop at 6 and that's it. Here, I mean, that's cruel. Can you please stop that?
As long as people get their weekends, and weekends are sacrosanct, I think that's a great start.
Delhi girl. Ultimately, Delhi girl, the weekends are sacrosanct because they have a life in Delhi. Mumbai, there's no, anybody in Mumbai has a life in a weekend? No, nobody, not a single person. It's horrible. The member of parliament is a different thing altogether. Pay no attention. All right, we'll open the floor up for a few minutes of questions. If you want to ask Sukhleen anything personal, it's fine.
And also Cyrus, because he's dying to answer some really, really exciting questions.
I'm okay with controversial questions, but so we know in India, we do what is called foreplay with the audience. So we just play the veena or something for 1 minute while you relax and chill and decide whether you want to ask a question. And then after 3-4 minutes, the body language gets better. It takes a little, it's like 1 drink, 2 drinks, and then suddenly the guy won't leave you alone. And I'm talking about me, so forget you. Can you imagine? Yeah.
You're definitely a far more entertaining company than anybody put together in this room.
No, I'm just hygienic. I'm just kidding. All right, questions for Sukhleen. They put up a startup. She's had twins. In the last 2 years, she's had the most successful run of her career. So she's one of those people who's come smiling out of the pandemic and going from strength to strength. Is there anything you want to ask?
It almost sounds like an auction.
It is.
Going, gone.
Yeah. We have one gentleman who's just come back from surgery. Dr. Gonsalves, yes.
If the mic works.
The mask is on. We can't.
Now you can.
Somewhat.
Is it okay?
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
Now you can, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So tell me, which is the most interesting thing happened with the two of you during pandemic? Not the boring thing, the interesting thing.
Together? Sukhleen's husband was away one weekend and क्या बताओ sir?
आप वो भी बता सकते हो. But what was really interesting and something that you learned from a humorous perspective?
I was talking to I was doing a lot of Zoom podcasts and chats and all that with somebody. I was talking to some head of some Rajasthan university, this very conservative lady with a sari and a bindi and all that, speaking very fancy English with an accent but very correctly. And my wife used the F word behind me because I left the geyser on. And she came into frame and said, you've left the geyser on. And that lady's bindi almost flew off. I'm so surreal because, you know, you're a different personality. You know what the Japanese say, that we are different personalities with our friends, with our families and with ourselves. So it's really like that. The avatar changes when you're talking to a lady who's conservative and well-bred and you're trying to, you know, give her that kind of respect. And my wife she had no idea what was happening. She just got angry and abused and left the frame. And I'm sure everybody's gone through that. You know, you've had moments where something else has happened from the other life, which doesn't belong in this life. That happened a lot to you?
You know, for me, I got so used to the noise behind. Like, invariably, there would be members in the team who would be cooking during, say, at noon. And you got so used to the pressure cooker noise. You know, some things that you would normally not even use, you wouldn't be used to it at work, right? But you got used to people's whole life. And I think it was interesting at large because you're not used to doing that at work, right? Because exactly like Cyrus said, people always tend to have like a work face and they're much more relaxed at home. But I think when you're working from home, some of that also comes along, right? I think that was in a way interesting, but sometimes also annoying. But we all had to live with it and make it easier for each other, especially with crying pets and...
Yeah, so the empathy factor was huge. Because you know that if somebody else is going to happen to you sooner or later.
Exactly.
And all the horror stories from abroad of people being caught naked and doing all kinds of silly things and leaving their cameras on and unmuted, etc., etc. There's no end to it. All right. That was a slightly fantasy question. I felt a little aroused by it, but yeah. I know, I got a little worried where your thoughts are going after such a drab session. What the hell? Okay.
That's why they had this session at this time, right?
No, I think they're like now starved, they're repressed. It is like Indian men in a bus stop. You got to be very careful. Any other questions? I'm highly diabetic now and I don't know if there's sugar.
Have you seen his abs?
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
Wow.
Chai is not happening.
This show is going in a different direction. Really. Next, it's going to be aerobics by the two of us. Stay tuned. Yeah. Please have some chai. We're trying to promote this chai culture. I'm more lassi drinker. But I'll say cheers.
Yeah.
Huh? Oh, okay, all right, fair enough. So that was your question. That was Monica's organized entire show. Okay.
We are trying to plug in the theme, cutting chai.
Oh, that's
Hence
I thought it's a
the reason.
takeoff on Karan Johar's fabulous interviews called what? Coffee with Karan.
Oh, so that's why we're cutting chai.
Yeah, it's fabulous. Let's give 2 more minutes to somebody in the back who's not being represented. I always feel they're in the wrong wedding. The people who sit at the back, like they're completely disconnected from us. So ask a question just so that we feel that you're part of the family. People right at the back, the furthest away, one gentleman in a white shirt, if he can ask a question, that would be a great way to end. Everybody's turning and making him embarrassed. But he's on the phone, he's on Tinder, he's doing his thing, he's not bothered. Why would he waste his time? Okay.
He's rather pretending to be on his phone now.
Yeah. He's really paying attention to the phone because all this is going over his head. All right. I'll give it another 5 seconds to clean, otherwise get on with it. Because I know you've just got out of having children and you need to drink heavily. 1 year she hasn't been allowed to touch alcohol and they give her chai after calling her all the way here. Really. Anybody else? Going once? Going twice?
Like I said, it's an auction and it's gone.
And it's gone. A big hand to Sukhleen. Thank you so much for being with us, coming all the way here.
Thank you so much, Sukhleen. Thank you so much, Cyruss.